like the sticking out. That's it. Anyway, what's the name on the map?
Showtime, we're on the East Coast.
We're about to get into those tree lines so they don't see us on the fucking road.
What is going on, YouTube? Happy 2026. I just wanted to come here and make a beginner's guide for all the new players that are coming into Arma. And what a great time to be alive. So, Arma Reforger offers a unique and rewarding military simulation experience by taking the time to learn the basics. Communicate with your team and play tactically. You'll be on your way to becoming a valuable asset on the battlefield. So the 12 tips that I have for you are: be patient, start slow, find a squad, communicate your status, like if you're injured, out of ammo, or need assistance. Don't be afraid to ask questions, learn from your deaths, embrace realism, explore the maps, and consider support roles. If you take all this into account, then you could be like me and everybody else that is experienced, and we can go and have a great time in this game. So, without further ado, let's get into this game. And then I magically die. Right here. 3, 2, 1. Oh! So what you want to do is you want to go over to the training simulation and open that up and then do the tutorial. And then after that, you go into the field manual. Well, here's a quick tip. So after you do the driving simulation to the weapons range, you can actually walk over to the road sign that has all the little signs on it, and you can actually fast travel in between all the different tutorials. So that way you could actually cut down on the travel time and make it a little faster for you to learn. Once you've completed the tutorial, give yourself a gold star. Then your next task is to go in and read every field manual there is in the game, okay? You cannot play online without completing the whole field manual. You need to read word for word, okay? This is word comprehension, Arma Reforger version, okay? So there will be a 100-page test on this field manual exam at the end of the video, and you need to get about a 70% to pass, so keep that note. Next up, we have basic movement and positioning. So when it comes to basic movement and positioning, it is vital to utilize the proper forms of cover, whether it be hard cover, soft cover, or forms of concealment, whether it be soft concealment or hard concealment. So in this picture right here, I'm hiding in a bush, okay? This would be considered concealment. It will not stop bullets, but it will stop the enemy from seeing me dying. Now, when you're coming onto an objective, you want to be very, very careful about just blatantly running into an objective. You want to look around, you want to listen, because there might be an enemy nearby. Now, be prepared, because the enemy might hear you walking around, and there you go into a gun battle. So, who's going to be the victor of the gun battle? Well, it all depends on who shoots first, I guess. Now, when it comes to your stance, you want to just make sure that your stance is correct, like here. Next up, we have the Game Master mode. So in the Game Master mode, you get to act as your own dungeon master, creating your own military wet fantasies. So I went back to Arland and I modified the O course to make it a little more to my liking. Added extra equipment, extra obstacles, and added some enemy AI just to give it a little more oomph in the realism effect. And so with the Game Master mode, before you get online, to a PvP server, test out the equipment, test out the different types of munitions and stuff, see what it looks like. You basically, when you first start out, this is where I like to go. Test things out, see what it looks like, how it functions, get better at some of the equipment, and that way when you get into a PvP server, a conflict series server, then you'll be better equipped to, go one-on-one or 2-on-2. Next up, we have combat fundamentals. So, engaging in combat in Arma Reforger requires a different approach than many arcade shooters, such as Call of Duty, and Battlefield 6. Like in Battlefield 6, you run on a ticket system. So every time a player dies and respawns, he draws off the ticket system. In Arma, you utilize a supply system base where you and your faction have to control the supply points in order to advance and establish radio networks to control the map. Now, when it comes to weapon zeroing, your bullets in Arma Reforger are affected by gravity and travel time. So, adjusting your weapon's zeroing and based on your estimated distance to your target, it is crucial for hitting your shots at range. So, utilize a rangefinder or bust out your map and protractor and do some math like a good little school kid that you once were. Now, when it comes to firing modes, understand the different weapons that you have. Some might be full auto, like this weapon right here, and think of it like tools. This tool right here has a different function and different purpose than the M16A2 or the Browning M21A1 4791 machine gun, Maserati. Now, all these different weapons with the different calibers have different types of recoil. So when it comes to the full auto with the saw, it's best to plant that saw with the bipod down on the prone position of the floor. So that way you can minimize the kick of the barrel. And the other thing is target identification. So you want to positively identify your targets before. Okay, let's talk about ammunition management. So depending on the type of weapon you're carrying or how many weapons you're carrying, it's going to weigh you down a lot. So I'm running about 24 kilograms and he's running about 62 kilograms. And so I'm tactically a lot lighter than him and he'll fatigue a lot faster than I would. Okay, so the second thing is when it comes to target identification, if you don't know, pull your binos out and try to identify the uniform. And if you're unsure if that's a friendly or not, you can do this really basic movement where you just jump up and down. And if the person that you're looking at mimics the action that you're doing, then they're probably a homie. And then, you don't have to shoot them. So the other thing as well as trying to identify them from a distance is you can also look on the map and like, okay, is this another team that's capping the base? Then cool. And that'll go into the next subject is radio communication. So your radio has squad chat and it has platoon chat. So if you're unsure, you pull up your map and then you can take your radio out and you can change the squad channel over to the certain squad that you see on the map. And then you'll be able to talk to them directly and like, hey, I'm over here, you're over there, I see you. Okay, that's friendly, cool. And then the other thing too is you want to be clear and concise with your radio communication. You don't want to be like, oh my God, no, you don't want to be like that. Yeah, you just want to be clear, concise, think about what you're going to say before you say it, and then report. So you want to give relative information when talking over the radio, like enemy positions, your status, or your intentions, and then also giving out like enemy contacts, a bearing and a distance. And sometimes you might have to use some lingo, so that way the enemy team doesn't outright hear your plans over the radio. The other thing too is if you don't have a microphone, use text chat as much as possible. But voice communication is significantly way more effective in game than trying to use text chat. Next up, we have the medical system. So in the medical system, you have several tools in your inventory. You have a tourniquet, you have a bandage, you have morphine, and you have saline. Now, with those four, how do you use them? Well, if you have an open wound on a limb, you would use a tourniquet, then a bandage, and then you could remove the tourniquet, apply the morphine, and then apply saline if you've lost a lot of blood. Now, in Arma Reforger, you have the medical tents and you have the medical ambulance. These are different utilities and facilities that you can utilize in game. You can go into those facilities and you can grab medical equipment and you can actually lay prone or sit in them and you can actually slowly recover very slowly in those places, which is really nice. And you can grab supplies from them, even better. So in the tutorial, it'll teach you how to do the fundamentals of basic health, and then from there, then you'll be more rounded when you go into a PvP server. All right, listen up, chitlins. We're going to talk about base building and supplies in conflict. So, if you're like me and you joined late in a server, you're going to want to look at the progression of the map and see where everybody's at. And then you can highlight over the different little bases and stuff and see where supplies are needed. So, everybody in game, hands down, is a grunt. Everyone is a grunt. So, to help your fellow man, do supply runs. And you'll level up really fast by doing supply runs. So, if there's a lot of you in the beginning of the game, you're going to want to delegate. Okay, who's going to do supply runs? Who's going to do base building? Who's going to go on the forward attack? Who's going to go on the defense? You guys got to negotiate who's going to do what. It's very, very important. You don't want everybody to go on the attack, because then what will happen later on in the game, close to mid game, you guys are going to be short supplies, and then all of a sudden the bases that you capped, you're going to start losing them because nobody can respawn on those forward bases. So it's very, very crucial that in conflict mode, when you're doing base building and supplies, that somebody is dedicating some amount of time. They don't have to do the whole time of the server, because that'd be really, really tedious. But to run supplies. Now, let me backtrack before I get way too ahead of myself. So, if you want to understand how capturing bases work, you have to set up a radio network. In Arma Reforger, you utilize a radio network, okay? So, with radio network, it is essential for allowing players to spawn in at captured bases for extending your team's influence, okay? Build radio relay stations at captured points to expand your network, and utilize the MOB and the MBU and the NBC when you gotta go to the DNC, okay? Now, once you've established a excellent radio network across the lands of Arland and Evron, what you're going to want to do next is, when you go to capture an enemy base, you and your team are going to have superior presence over that base to capture that zone, okay? So when it comes to vehicle etiquette, do not leave the MOB by yourself in the vehicle. Make sure you pick up your fellow man and you take each other to the next objective. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind about these vehicles is treat these vehicles as valuable assets and use them effectively for their intentional purposes rather than a personal taxi, okay? Otherwise, you ain't gonna have no goddamn vehicles, and you're gonna be stuck on the side of the road looking like a dum-dum, okay? Well, I just want to say thanks for watching. I hope next time you'll stop to remember these tips that I shared with you, and that you'll be able to utilize them in the field. And so, if we ever run across each other, that hopefully that you'll be able to stay alive like I did. So, without further ado, it's time to fade into the sky.
Just a moment. I may be able to see more.